The Final Furlong podcast is proudly brought to you by Jeff Banks Bet. Join the excitement and sign up to Jeff Banks online now to get 10% off any net losses returned as cash after your first month of betting up to £500 at jeffbanks.bet.
The Final Furlong podcast weekend preview. Great to have your company. I'm Emmet Kennedy, joined as usual by George Gorman. And for the first time on the Final Furlong podcast, a man who has been banging in the winners on the tweet machine, left, right, and centre, and we're delighted to have his insight and expertise on the podcast this weekend. No pressure. Peter Michael, welcome to the Final Furlong.
Thanks, Emmet. Much appreciated.
The first race we're going to talk about is the 150 on Saturday, the Coral Glorious Stakes Group 3. Betting is headed by Al-Azi at 5-2. I'm not sure why, because Phantom Flight beat him fair and square last time out and should appreciate the step up and trip. At 3-1, he is. Americ is 100-30. Relentless Voyager, 9-2. Lion's Pride is an 11-2 shot. Peter, you're making your debut. Let's kick it off. First race at Goodwood on the Saturday. What do you think?
Well, I had a look at it, Emmet. I thought it was a tricky race. I mean, there's £4 between the five of them in the official rating. Al-Azi is the top rated at 112. There's three of them 108, and Lion's Pride is 109. So it's a tricky race. I also think it's going to be tactical because the only two that like to go forward is Phantom Flight and Lion's Pride. Phantom Flight, you've just stated there that he should appreciate the step up and trip. If gets an easy lead, I think he'll try and go as slow as he can. But then I think it's Newmarket on Lion's Pride. Am I right? He probably won't let him have it his own way. It's not a race I have a firm opinion on. I do think it will be tactical. I wouldn't be having a bet in it myself, but if I had to narrow it down, I'd probably narrow it down to Lion's Pride and Al-Azi. That's the two I'd probably narrow it down to.
Okay. Do you think Al-Azi will come forward from his seasonal debut, if I could use my mouth words correctly?
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't ran for, about 8 months or something like that? Yeah. Close to that. He only has a length to find to beat Phantom Flight. You would imagine that coming back from an 8-month layoff, there's every reason to expect him to turn around that length, and especially going up to 12 furlongs, which he's proven over and Phantom Flight isn't. But then again, Jim Crowley isn't riding great at the moment, is he? So I don't know. It's a very tricky race.
Tricky time for Jim Crowley. I only said the other day, Jim Crowley's mustard. He gave that horse a great ride in the Group 2 at York.
I saw that, actually, yeah.
And then he ends up getting... oh, no.
Well, he gave Enfajar an absolutely... I tipped him up and I backed him. I mean, I'd rather not go into it because he had so much time to creep into the race off a slow pace, and he just sat there and he gave the horse an impossible task. And it's one of those. And Crowley is... he's a very strong jockey, but I haven't been following him lately, to be honest, properly. But I've been reading a lot lately on people's comments about him, and a lot of people are thinking he's in the decline. So it'll be interesting to see over the next few months how he goes.
A little bit like Kieran Schumacher. Everybody was just lining up to shoot him, and now it's like, oh my goodness, Kieran Schumacher! Oh, what a fantastic jockey! Now he's after getting beaten on Emily Upjohn. I guarantee you take one look at X, and it's like they want to line him up against the wall again.
For me, I think Schumacher is a good jockey, but I wouldn't have thought he would have been a Gosling stable jockey, if I'm being honest. Now, that's taken nothing away from him. He is a good jockey, but he's no Dettori or the likes of the ones that have ridden for Gosling down through the years, That's just my opinion.
I think if they were appointing a full-time stable jockey who was going to be riding everything, it would have been Oisin Murphy, but that's not the position.
Yeah.
You don't get to ride everything.
Okay.
That's completely from the outside, just looking at this, trying to figure out, how does this make sense?
Gosden made a point of saying he's not the retained jockey, didn't he? He said, he's our number one choice or something like that, didn't he?
That's actually, you're right.
Saying he's not our retained jockey.
Yeah, Sam was saying that. Sam reached out to him for a quote about appointing him, and he kept saying to him, he's not our... No, you're using the phrase retained. He's not our retained jockey. He's our first choice jockey, but he's not our retained jockey.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's right. Actually, thinking about it. Yeah,
I mean, look, Holly Doyle has rides there. There's horses that James Doyle gets the rides. There's horses that Oisin Murphy has first preference on. You're not really. That doesn't happen to Ryan Moore. That doesn't happen to William Buick. They are the number ones for their specific teams. That's not what's happening with Kieran. So, I mean, even audience isn't his right. So, it's a tricky one, but I think he is a fantastic jockey who just had a really difficult start because they didn't really have the firepower. Anyway, after that brief tangent, you want to just bash him now, George? You want to bash Crowley and Kirch? Or is this going to be the Jockeys Union going, well, how dare you?
But I'm not going to go into anything about Jim. He lives about 20 minutes down the road. But he lives at Coombe Stables. Obviously, he's married to Amanda Perrett's sister. But yeah, I won't go into Jim too heavily. But yeah, he actually rode in a novice chase for us once about probably more than that, probably 15 to 20 years ago now. But yeah, he's a nice bloke. I'll say that much. Don't need to go into his riding. But as for this race here,
politically correct answer there from George Gorman.
I thought Imric has been beaten twice by King of Conquest. He obviously has the form, ties in with Middle-earth. You'd like to think the winner of this is something that can improve to sort of above that level. And I sort of had to go with Phantom Flight. Like his RPR of 126 sees him with £1 to fine with Al-Azi for some reason, which they say is strange because he obviously beat him the last day. You don't really see a 5-year-old improving, but with the gelding operation, the introduction of a hood and the switch of stables, he actually did do that last time. He put up a career best RPR to beat Al-Azi in the Steventon Stakes. Say they're both on their seasonal debuts. Yeah, Al-Azi had 8 months off the track or whatever it was, but yeah, Phantom Flight had 6. Like it's not a whole lot more. He just stopped in August, whereas the other horse stopped in October. It's not. He may have had a small injury, but it can't have been anything too bad to be back and going again at that time of the year. The race off level weights here again. They're actually level in the betting. When I was looking at it yesterday, Al-Azi was shorter, but it's actually evened out now. You're going to get the same. It's going to be good to firm again. I think step up to a mile 4 isn't certain to favour Al-Azi. He hasn't won over this trip since May 2022. And 2 of his last 3 attempts at a mile 4, he's been unplaced. And you say Phantom Flight has attempted a trip once before. He was only 4th of 5. But he was only beaten 2.5 lengths, and funny enough, Al-Azi was actually over 20 lengths behind him that day. Crucially, we've got the gelding operation and the fitting of the hood now. Surely has a better chance of staying the trip now, of like seeing the trip out now than he did before. And I think he's a small bit of value at his best price, 7-2, isn't he? And it would be a marginal call, but I couldn't back anything else in the race. If I
I couldn't agree more.
It has to be him.
I couldn't agree more. He was bought to run in the Bahrain International Trophy, and he was going to take in the Ebor en route. But then he runs to a career best on his debut. So I think the Ebor is pretty much out for him now. That was his first run for the new yard, first run after a gelding op, and first run in a hood. Could very well be that all of those things combined just helped him win first time out. But it also might be that James Horton, who's a terrific trainer, had a horrible time last year. It can't not have interfered with how the horses were running. They couldn't run for quite a while. How much of this horse's progression was hindered last year by what had gone on that was of no fault of the trainers? And how much improvement is there to come from this fella? The fact that they were going to run him in the Ebor means a mile 4 won't be an issue for him. He's tried it before, it didn't work for him. But I don't think that's a problem at all. His best form has come on left-handed flat tracks, which is a slight issue as well. He'll be well positioned. Possible his trainers just found the key to him, and he's just a much better horse now. I thought he beat Al-Azi fair and square. He possibly will improve for going up and trip. I think he will. I'm not absolutely certain about that, but I think he will. And when Al-Azi's 5-2 and he's 3-1, this is a pretty an easy one for me. It's Phantom Flight for me. A little bit crestfallen when Peter was coming on going, Al-Azi here.
No, well, look, I don't have a strong opinion. I myself probably won't be back into the race or tipping in it. So I think you guys have convinced me. So I'll go with Phantom Flight. No, I'm only
flip flop.
I'm only messing. No, I definitely see all the angles you're stating. You know, he's only run once with a new trainer. He's won, hooded first time, gelded. Until a horse has proven himself in the trip, it's always a doubt, even if you think they're definitely going to get it. But as you said, as well as I said, he'll probably get the run of the race. So if he doesn't stay it, prove that he stays it tomorrow on Saturday, then he won't ever stay it because it's not going to be a fastly run race. I don't think anyway.
Yeah, this is a fantastic opportunity for him to do it. And if he doesn't do it here, then there'll be a few raised eyebrows and a few slumped shoulders, I would imagine. Ground is going to be a deal for him too. He's won 2 of his 4 starts and good to firm and placed in another. I think he's going to take all the beating. It's Phantom Flight for George and I. Peter, a tentative Al-Azi with a sort of proceed with caution. This is another 5-runner race, by the way.
I wouldn't rule Lion's Pride out. I wouldn't rule Lion's Pride out of it either. You know, I wouldn't. Okay. I'd give him a squeak. He's the outsider of the field. I'd give him a squeak. I think there's an opportunity there for a jockey, basically Lion's Pride jockey, Kieran Schumacher, to possibly try and steal the race. Because, as I said, I don't think George Scott's going to want to go too fast in Phantom Flight. So there could be an opportunity there to nick that race halfway through.
Somebody in the comments is going, this is the second time he said the trainer and not the jockey, by the way. George will be in the winner's enclosure, hopefully cheering on. Callum will be the one doing the riding. Unless there's a complete about turn and George Scott goes and rides him in the race.
Oh, beg your pardon. Sorry. Yeah.
You're
sorry.
Grand.
That's the nerves of the first time on the podcast. Callum Shepherd.
Nothing to be nervous about. This is not rocket science. We're not doing open heart surgery. We're just having the crack on the podcast. It's all good.
Another part to edit.
Will that one be edited though, or will that just be the opening debut? Right, let's move on to the 225 1 mile 6 Coral Summer Handicap Class 2. It's a full field of 14 runners going. Obviously, he's good to firm. Betting is headed by Align the Stars for Charlie Johnston and Joe Fenning. Fairbanks, who was punted off the boards at Newmarket the last day. Oisin Murphy, Andrew Balding 4-1. True Legend for Sir Mark. And Luke is a 10-1 shot. Knightswood 11s. And Ayab for Tom Marquand is a 14-1 shot as things stand. George Gorman, who do you like in the second race at Goodwood on Saturday?
If you look at the betting, I'd have you believe it's like sort of between two of them for a winning perspective. Like Fairbanks and Align the Stars, or what are they, 3 or 4-1? That's 10-1 bar the field. It's obvious why they arrive as not only improvers, but also coming off a win, or in Align the Stars' case, multiple wins. They both confirmed stairs at the trip. I'd say if I had to side with one, while Fairbanks has shown a higher level of form so far, £3 higher on RPRs, and the introduction of blinkers last month do give an angle as to how he could still be unexposed. Giving £10 to Align the Stars, maybe. If I had to take one of them, it'd be Align the Stars, but that's no fun. I've gone for a big old swing, and I haven't checked, but I've gone for what I assume is the oldest horse in the field, with Yukon Glen. He's not getting any younger, but it's clear the fire does still burn at staying trips these days. He ran no less than 12 times last year and recorded RPRs of over 100 on 6 occasions. 5 of them came at a mile 4 or further. 3 of them came at a mile 6, including 2 1/4 length fourth in the E-Ball and a 3rd place in this race last year. 8 of his 13 career victories have come on ground that's good or quicker, which sort of dispels a lot of his sort of soft ground form you saw last year, where you'd be like, oh, we need soft ground. No, 8 of 13 have come on ground that's good or quicker, which is likely to be the case here. Last year, some of his best runs are on soft. The question with him for a while would have been if he really wanted to win, because he was running well, but he hadn't won since July 2021. But then in June, he managed to win at Ayr on good to firm over a mile 5. And he gave the impression he was just doing enough, and yet still earned an RPR of 97. He gets here off a £4 lower mark than for this race last year, and for the mark where he ran that brilliant race in the E-Ball. And I think he's got to be respected at a huge price. He's 20-1.
You might get slightly bigger, maybe, if you ask Jeff Banks nicely, he might just go, yeah, okay, we'll give you 22s or 25s. But that's if you're asked super nice. I think that's a really interesting shout. I was laughing because he just doesn't stop, this fella. He's a legend. 11 years of age and he's still going strong. It's just terrific to see. Peter, who do you like?
It's not tailing off either.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Align the Stars was meant to run today in the Gordon Stakes, and he didn't run. So they obviously fancy their chances there in the summer handicap. Fairbanks, I mean, he started, what was it, in the last year, 13th of May, he was rated 68, and he's now rated 100. He's gone up £32 in 8 runs. He's won 5 of them, which is incredible. In Ireland, you get put up £32 if you win one race. So at least in the UK, the handicapper gives them a chance. I I thought it was a competitive race. I would possibly look for a bit of value, and the two I'm looking at would be Mr. Freedom and Great Bedouin. I think Mr. Freedom is an extremely likeable horse. He's ran 35 times, won 11, placed 9. He should run his race. There shouldn't be any excuses for him. So he shouldn't be a million miles away from placing. And then if the race falls right for him, he could win it. And I think Great Bedouin's interesting. He's won at Goodwood before. He's not proven over the trip, but I think he will stay. And last time out, he won despite not having the clearest of run. And it was his first run after being gelded. So there's angles there for him to possibly be competitive around 16-1 or something like that. I think he is.
Yeah.
But again, no strong fancies here, unfortunately.
Great Bedouin's just gone 14s, so somebody has been getting active with that price. I thought Fairbanks is the one to beat. He's on a career high mark of 100, but Oisin Murphy's riding like a man possessed. And Andrew Balding, who's crossed 2,000 winners in Britain, is in pretty damn good form as well. 10 winners in the last 2 weeks. Ground, track, trip, all perfect for him. Should be more to come on his second start over a mile 6. 6-span rise probably isn't going to be enough to stop him. That being said, it's a competitive race, and he's getting pretty short now. So Ayab was the one I liked. She's a progressive filly. She's got a good attitude. She's well drawn in stall 4. 7 of the last 10 winners were drawn in 7 or lower. She won a filly's handicap over a mile 4 at the track 2 starts back in May, and drops in class and goes up in trip after a 6th, beating 3/4 of a length in a listed race at Pontefract last time out. She's got the second highest RPR, or second highest RPR has come over this trip, and she's unbeaten in 2 starts going right-handed. She needs to improve off her mark of 89, but her trainer's horses are running well. He's been highlighted by time form, and he's got a 61% runners to form on the Racing Post. She was the 4th highest top speed figure in the race as well. I think at 14-1, Ayab can run a nice race, but not massively bullish either. 1 mile 6, Qatar Lillie Langtry Stakes, Group 2. Free Wind is the 3-1 favourite for Kieran Schumark and John and Thady Gosden from Caius Corster for the David Minussier team, who we spoke to last week on TalkSport 2. George, actually, Peter, we'll go for you. We'll alternate. Third race at Goodwood. Is this one you're more intrigued with?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a decent field, decent horses. Free Wind is a clear top rated 114, and there's no shame in her comeback run second to Blue Stocking. You'd have to say she looks the one to beat. The second horse, Caius Corster, also brings decent staying form into the race. Last time out, you can just put a line through that form. Just absolutely took off with De La Sayet riding. I think those two have good chances, but the one that really would interest me more would be Grateful. I tipped her up in Nace, which she didn't. She only finished 6th of 11th, but I think too much use was made of her over that trip. I think possibly they burst her. And then she went and won after that, a Group 3 in Ferry House. I think there's more to come from her, without a doubt, but she'll need to improve. I like the way she went about it the last time. I think there was more in the tank, and Aidan O'Brien, with these type of horses stepping up in trip. I know she won over a mile 6 the last time, but he does well with stayers. Jim Crowley's on board again, so hopefully he'll give this one a good ride, and she could be a bit of each way value.
Yeah, no pressure, Jim. Ryan Moore is going to be in America riding in Saratoga.
I actually think Jim's a good jockey. It's just that ride.
Oh, he's a fantastic jockey.
Yeah, I do, and he's very strong. But I suppose, look, we all have bad days. So
why is Wayne Lorden not gone over? And who is he riding at Galway that's making him not go
That's
there?
a good question. I didn't look at that, to be honest. It's a good question.
He's going to ride Puppet Master in Galway.
Doesn't
that
want
must
to
be a
spend
good
the
thing
diesel.
then.
Goodwood's too far from Gatwick.
Coolmore won't pay the travelling expenses. They wouldn't book him the flight.
Down that Newbury, they're all just off the M25. Like, yeah, Goodwood's a fair while down.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule out Henry's one in that as well. Term of Endearment. He's got a line through Grateful with Magical Zoe, so that could be one as well at some sort of a price. But Grateful each way would be the one I'd say there.
All right, Lillie Langtry Stakes. It's Free Win for me, George, and maybe this is just a little bit. Maybe I'm being a little bit simplistic here, but she was kept in training to win a Group 1 at the age of 6, and on her seasonal debut gets blitzed by Blue Stocking. You might have been thinking, oh no, like what's gone on at the Gosden stable? But some of his horses just weren't firing at the time. Inspiral, Hello, and a couple of others. And in hindsight, that defeat to Blue Stocking looks pretty damn good now. She's gone on and beat Emily Upjohn, another one of these Gosden fillies that there's a bit of a question mark hanging over, to win her first Group 1. She's finished second in the King George, went an absolute blinder. So there's nothing wrong with a 6-length defeat there. She's 3 from 4 on a break of 60 days or more, and she hasn't run since that day at York. She'll love the track, love the trip, love the ground. She's the highest rated on RPRs, well clear on top speed and clear on time form. Heavy ground saw an expensive defeat in this race last year, but there's no sign of that ridiculous surface this time around, and on a sound surface, I think she just wins.
I just get that thing with Free Wind. I feel like it seems, you say, has a run for 60 days, but it seems to be favourite a lot, not win a whole lot. I know she has won plenty of races before people like cover me, but always one I'm happy to take on. And I couldn't have Caius Chorister after his, they say, he put a line for it, but God, he was far too keen. Ascot, wasn't he? I'm going to take a punt on what I think the best horse in the race is, and it's Mellow Mellow. Like, she shares an RPR of 122 with the favourite, and you'd have to say her short neck Preva My second to Warm Heart is the best bit of form in the race. Obviously, given what Warm Heart has done subsequently, you'd have to say probably too soft for him that day. But having said that, the third Sea Silk Road won a Longchamp Group 1 on her only subsequent start. With Mellow Mellow herself, she was beaten on a seasonal reappearance. She probably needed the run in a listed event at Longchamp over this trip. But the winner, Angel Guidance, won another listed event at St. Cloud on her next start. Her next run was more disappointing. She was third in a St. Cloud Group 2. The second's been beaten every start since, and the fourth was beaten at listed level next time. However, that was only over a mile 2.5. Over a mile 6 furlongs, this mare's form is defeat by a head to a subsequent winner, a 3.5 length win in the listed race, and one bad defeat that was her last run of last season. So you could sort of say maybe she was over the top or whatever. Most of her form is on very bad ground. That Warm Heart defeat, like I said, is her biggest performance, and it came on good to soft. So if she can handle this ground, I think she's a lot better than these, and she's a confirmed stayer. And the favourite might be 1 from 1 at this trip, but they haven't tried it again in the past 2 years, which makes me think they thought they got away with it that day, and they wanted to wait until maybe the legs started to slow down a bit to give it another go. But it's Mellow Mellow for me. I think she's the best horse if she handles the ground.
Grateful for Peter, Mellow Mellow for George. They're both wrong. Free Wind goes and wins.
This episode of the Final Furlong podcast is only possible with your support, listening and watching, and with the support of our sponsors. So give me 60 seconds to tell you about Jeff Banks Bet. Betting on horse racing used to be very simple. It was us, the punter, versus them, the bookmakers, the old enemy. But today, betting with online bookmakers is zero fun. Online betting companies promise you the world, but if you have the nerve and the audacity to place a winning bet, they will make you jump through endless hoops just to access your cash. It is not fair and it's not fun. And betting is supposed to be fun. Jeff Banks is different. He's one of the most recognizable faces in British racing. He's got pitches at racecourses all across the United Kingdom. He is a true horse racing fan. And while Jeff very much promotes responsible betting, he is standing up and fighting back against these insane affordability checks. Affordability checks that will destroy the levy and kill British racing. Sign up to jeffbanks.bet right now. Use our promo code FFP500, and not only will you get access to a bookmaker who values your custom, who is a racing fan, but he'll give you best odds guaranteed on British and Irish racing, and he'll give you 10% cash back on net losses after your first month, up to £500. Gamble responsibly, 18 plus only, begambleaware.org. It's tradition refined with modern tech and unbeatable odds. Use our promo code FFP500 and place your bets now with Jeff Banks Bet.
Carl, Stewards Cup. I've got to be completely honest here. I feel like my selection is quite lazy, so I'm going to leave it till last and put the pressure on the boys. because I hope they've come up with something better than I have. Because I looked at this for ages and just kept on coming back to one horse. It's not that difficult to figure out who. This is not Oppenheimer levels of intellect for this selection. But the 335, the Stewards Cup, the betting is headed by Dark Trooper, 11-2, Al Bashir, 7-1, Purasang, 8-1, Lethal Levi, a 12-1 shot, and Billy Joe, who just seems to run every single... It's like an all-weather sprint handicapper. He runs every week these days. 16-1 shot for Mick Appleby, who's not afraid to run his horses multiple times. Peter, who do you like? Please tell me you found some diamond amongst the coal.
No, I'm probably the same horse as you. I'm a big fan of Al Bashir. He was a horse I followed last year, and he's one of those. From last year, he was a hold-up horse, and he just come flying. If he got the gaps, he'd nearly win. But then one day, I tipped him up in Newcastle, and I think the comment I made was, "We'll be coming late." And I thought he was a certainty that day, but I thought he'd be held up. And didn't he go out and make all? And he won a few races in the all-weather, being prominent or making all, and that kind of ruined him in the turf, because he's not. I mean, his rating went up. I'll just check it here in the all-weather to, I think, 107. But I mean, that's a false rating, because he's running, the all-weather races during the winter time. The quality is not as it states. Last time they dropped him to 5, and Holly held him up, and that's what he needs. So my worry for him is he might be a bit too keen back over 6 furlongs. But if Holly can just get a hold of him early on, I think he'll be running and finishing like a train. So I'll be going for him. He'll do me, but he'll need to settle, and he'll need to be towards the middle or back.
Yeah, makes sense. He's another one who just keeps on coming out relentlessly, and just doesn't seem to be able to run a bad race, to be fair to him. George, who do you like?
Well, obviously, listeners of the Final Furlong know I was gutted. I put up Dark Trooper in Wokingham, and he got narrowly beat. I managed to back the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th in the Wokingham that day. Dark Trooper comes here off just £2 higher, which seems lenient. But that's not the loser I backed that day that I'm going to be following into the Stewards Cup. Instead, I'm going with the horse that finished 5th, Glenfinnan. He ran exceptionally well in the Wokingham on good to firm ground, as it's likely to be. He's beaten only 2 lengths into 5th. He reopposes Dark Trooper off £3 better off. Lethal Levi £2 better off. He ran too keen in his only subsequent start when they tried out the first time cheap pieces. If he wears them again here, there's a chance he'll be more familiar with them and he won't react so strongly to them, or they might take him off altogether. So I haven't seen. They declared him with them on. They haven't. So they've taken them off. So that's good news. Hopefully he won't run so keen this time. 3 of his 5 runs this season have been better than anything he managed as a 3-year-old on RPRs, with the other 2 being his reappearance and last time with the first time cheap pieces on. So you take away, the first time when he would have needed the run and the disaster with the headgear last time. His horse is still improving, and he doesn't have to improve at all to finish in front of Dark and Lethal Levi this time round, and they are a long way ahead of him in the betting. He's 33-1. Lethal Levi is 12s, and Dark Trooper is 11-2. I think he's a cracking each way bet. Obviously, a lot of that price might be to do with the draw, because obviously it tends to favour high to middle numbers, but it's getting less. I think the last few years it's got less of a bias. It used to be, if you weren't drawn certainly 18 or above, you had no hope. But it's getting less of a bias as time goes on. And I want to chuck in another old friend as well. Rohan isn't the force of old this season, but his defeat of English Oak at Ascot in October last year off 102 was a mighty performance. He gave him English Oak a stone that day, who's now rated £17 higher. They did well to get him down to 102 season, should we say. And seeing him run over 5 furlongs and 7 furlongs this season might suggest that similar is happening here. It's a big target for sort of the shrewder trainers this race, and he's here off 102 again in a first-time visor.
Yes, done well to get him down to 102. Just very briefly, Peter, on the draw. So we've had 3 winners in the last 10 years come from single figures, but that means everything else has come from a double figure draw. Where do you want to be?
Well, I mean, often you'd hear jockeys say it's where the pace is. So I had a look at the pace map and at the races, and it was kind of even. So I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know. I mean, there's rain forecast as well between now and Saturday. There was meant to be thunderstorms, but I don't think that's going to happen. So if they get 5, 6, 7 mils, that might change the effects of the draw. So I don't know. I just hope Al-Bashir's on the right side, and as I say, he can settle early on towards mid-division or at the back. And so I can't really answer that question because I don't know. George will tell you.
I don't either.
He's a jockey. George the jockey. He'll tell you.
Yeah, I wasn't that kind of jockey. I've ridden this course, but not over this trip. So
I know.
There wouldn't be much. Wouldn't be my idea of fun. I think I rode here over a mile 1 and a mile 3, and I finished last and second last. But mine are drawn 10 and 11, which I don't always like. I sort of like one in the middle and one on the outside, because then you sort of go, well, if pace doesn't turn out where you like, you sort of don't have all your eggs in one basket. But these both jumped out at me, and they happen to be drawn right next to each other. So I have to take my medicine, but I can't leave them both go at 33s.
Well, the time form pace map says very strong, and you can see why, because there's so many horses who want to go forward, but they're all spread across the track from various different stalls. Like there's Apollo 1 and Get It really want to go forward from 27 and 28. They want to make the running. Rhythm and Hooves wants to go forward from 1. Lethal Levi wants to go forward from 8. And there's horses in behind them who want to press the leader as well. So spread across, it should be a furious gallop.
They're going to split.
Yeah, and you could just break your brain trying to work out which side is going to be the best and then just destroy yourself. You probably are better off to take 2 shots at this. Look, I think Dark Trooper's going to win, and I feel awful saying that because he's bloody 11-2 in a Stewards Cup. But 17 of the last 25 winners came from the Wokingham. 6 of the last 7 carried more than 9 stone to victory. So no issue with his weight, I don't think, anyway. And he's coming from the right race. He really should have won at Royal Ascot. If things had panned out better from there, he probably would have. He's a young, improving sprinter, going the right way. It's James Doyle, too, who's in tremendous form. I think he's got a lot going for him, except his price. So hopefully, Jeff Banks is feeling very, very profitable, and he's having a good week, and he decides, shove him out to 8-1. Give the small folk a chance, and let us try and get some extra crumbs.
I can assure you, as a Dark Trooper veteran, you'd rather he won at 11-2 than finish second at 14s when he went off at 4s.
Well, that's another thing I like about him, is he was subject of a massive gamble that day at Royal Ascot. Like, he was backed as though defeat was out of the question, so they knew a big run was coming. I think there's still a scope off that mark as well. So, yeah, Dark Trooper for me. One race at Newmarket we're going to take a look at, the 240. It's a mile 4 British Stallion Studs EBF Chalice Stakes listed race. It's for fillies and mares. 3-1 LeMay for John and Teddy Gosden heads the betting. They've got another horse called Place of Safety even. 5-1 Fairy Glen 4s. George, who do you like in this race?
Yeah, I was saying before we started, I can't understand why Lady Boba chose not to go here to run down the field in the Nassau. But I was sort of looking at the race through the lens of she was just going to win. And if there's something that could improve to have got to her, the horse I landed on, which obviously is a much shorter price now because Lady Boba's not here, but it's Fairy Glen. She's a big improver. She's only had the 3 runs on the all-weather. She only won a Class 5 the last time at Kempton, but she won it by 6 lengths and earned her a mark of 98 in a Class 5. That rated here, and she receives £10 in weight for age with the horse she's joint top rated with. So it is a different task for her altogether, both in the grade and in the surface. But she wouldn't be the price she is if were that not the case. She's won. Looking at their ratings and their weights, you'd feel really silly if she went and won at 4-1 and you didn't have something on her. So she'd be my pick.
Okay, Peter, for you?
To be honest, as I was saying earlier, this race gave me a headache. I just couldn't make heads or tails of it. I definitely wouldn't be betting on it. I wouldn't be advising anyone to bet on it. But if I had to pick one, just try and go with an improver. I'll go in with George and Ferry Glen. So I'll agree with him on that one. But I think I can't work it out.
It is a bit of a nightmare. It's a nightmare of a race. Place of Safety is the one that I landed on. And I'm more interested in her than I am in LeMay, who, I get it, she was second at Royal Ascot to Jess Stafford's horse the other day for Willie Mullins. I can see why she's the price she is, but she has drifted from 2s out to 3 to 1. She cost a fortune. She's a daughter of Frankel who cost over 600,000, and she just hasn't quite done it yet. Maybe this race will suit her. I think the other one is much more interesting. Palace of Safety. She beat a stable companion the other day. Form wouldn't amount to a whole lot, and wouldn't exactly have you purring, but I think there's room for this horse to be improving an awful lot. She shaped really well on debut. She's buried her stable companion when she landed the odds easily in the Fillies Novice at Kempton the other day by 5 lengths. She's 170,000 guineas, daughter of Knight of Thunder. Her dam is a sister to Biker, so stamina shouldn't be an issue at all, and she should improve for going up to a mile 4. The stable have won this race 3 times in the last 10 years, including the last 2 runnings. I think she's the more interesting of the 2, and I can see her being backed on the day as well. Place of Safety for me, for Benoit Delasayet and Jonathan Thady Gosden to beat their favourites and to hopefully get the better of George Gorman's Ferry Glen as well. No disrespect, George. All disrespect, George.
This is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. Have you ever found yourself comparing your life to others? With social media, it's so easy to look at someone's Instagram and think, wow, they've got it all together. But let's be real. Everyone has their struggles, and often what you see online is just a highlight reel. One thing I've learned is that comparison can really steal our joy. Instead of focusing on what others have, therapy can help you center on what you want and how to achieve it. It's all about becoming the best version of yourself. Now, whether or not you've been in therapy, it's important to know that it's not just for those who've gone through major trauma. Therapy can teach you positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, and empower you in your day-to-day life. If you're considering starting therapy, why not give BetterHelp a try? It's entirely online, making it convenient and flexible to fit into your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a registered therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time at no additional charge. With almost 5,000 therapists in the UK, BetterHelp provides access to mental health professionals with a wide range of expertise. Stop comparing and start focusing on what truly matters with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/furlong today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/furlong. This has been a paid advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online.
The reason that Ryan Moore is not riding at Goodwood is because he's going to be in Saratoga for the Fasig Tipton Saratoga Oaks on Friday, where he'll be riding Greenfinch, daughter of Justify, and the race we're more interested in on the Saturday, the Saratoga Derby Invitational Stakes Grade 1, where Diego Velasquez will be in action against Legend of Time for Charlie Appleby and William Buick. I believe George Gorman has decided to go and tip an American horse. How dare you, George? An American turf horse against the might of Ballydoyle and Godolphin? Are you insane? Who's going to topple Diego Velasquez then?
Yeah. Well, I got to say, I don't know what price this horse is going to be, because this is, don't get me wrong, I put a lot of work into my research for this, but I didn't know most of these horses before the couple of hours I spent looking at this yesterday.
Neither did I, by the way.
But sometimes a fresh perspective is a good thing, and one horse just kept hitting me in the face again and again. It's White Palomino. Like a horse called Tricari seems to be the key to most of these form, and he's come closest to beating him when he was beaten ahead by him in the Belmont Derby. I watched the video back, and he just nails all the way up the straight. He went for home, got caught, battled back. He was excellent. Those two had Legend of Time and Royal Majesty, and behind that day who reopposed. Legend of Time has also been beaten by White Palomino and Tricari on separate occasions on the 2 previous starts of that. He might have £5 to find with Diego Velasquez on RPRs, but on this occasion he's been in America. He's I know obviously America's a big country, and Belmont to Saratoga, might be miles, I don't know. But he's over there. He's used to travelling around the country. They'll have all of his routine locked down in terms of getting in the same water, the same feed. Diego Velasquez has been on a plane before. Well, he's certainly been on a boat before. He would have been on a plane to France. But travelling to France or England, suddenly going over to Saratoga and being expected to perform there, on RPRs, he only has to perform £5 under for White Palomino to beat him. And they say he's there, he's race fit, he's used to the country, the climate, the food, everything. Whereas Diego Velasquez has to take all that in his stride. And I don't know when he went over, but his last run here was only a few weeks ago. Like, he can't have been there all that long, you know. And just for me, I say I just kept looking through the form, and this horse kept hitting me in the face again and again and again. And I'm sort of like looking through the field, like you said, people. All the talk seems to be about Legend of Time and Diego Velasquez. Legend of Time couldn't get near this horse last time, so the last twice even. So I'll be awaiting the opening of a betting with interest.
Okay. White Palomino makes sense, to be fair. He's second on RPRs, and as you said, he holds Legend of Time. What did you make of the race, Peter?
Well, to be honest, it's hard. I don't really know the American horses, so it's hard to get a gauge of form. But obviously, as George has said, there's a line of form with White Palomino and Legend of Time. There's a head in it when they met, and I think Legend of Time is £4 better off. And as we were saying before we started, Charlie Appleby in America is absolutely lethal. Anything he takes, you can nearly back blindly. But in saying that, Diego Velasquez was so impressive last time out. But George makes a good point again. He only ran just over 2 weeks ago. So it's kind of a weird preparation to be going over for a race like that, only running 2 weeks before with all the travelling and everything. It does take a lot, but Aidan O'Brien is a master at that. So I would go for Diego Velasquez, but I have no idea about the prices. I can't see the prices anywhere. I didn't look for it, but I can't see it on the Racing Post website I'm on now.
The only thing I could get was morning line odds. Yeah, the only thing I could get was morning line odds, and they're going with the morning line is saying 2-1 Diego Velasquez. Sometimes those American morning line odds are frighteningly accurate. Sometimes they're hilariously wrong. And I'd be amazed if Diego Velasquez. White Palomino 8-1. I don't think he'll be that price. I don't see how he would be. Like they had Legend of Time 7-2, White Palomino 8-1, Diego Velasquez 2s. I don't see Diego Velasquez being odds against. I don't know. I would imagine he was sent out there a few days ago. I don't know. Certainly for the Breeders' Cup in Dubai, they've changed things in that they don't send them a couple of days before. They send them about a week before now, and they let them settle in their surroundings and get used to get fully acclimatized. There we go. Mouth words no longer working.
And you wouldn't want to fly a horse that's still recovering from a race, because obviously, like with anything with humans, with horses, exertion causes muscle tears, like tiny, minuscule muscle tears. And I don't know if anyone remembers Black Caviar used to fly in that bodysuit. That was to prevent them, basically, the change of pressure in the plane from essentially inflaming muscle tears. So you would like to think, you would have thought Diego Velasquez couldn't have flown over within a week of that run, which means he can't have had a week there, like maximum. I don't know. Like I said, Aidan O'Brien is the master, but you've got to remember he might not have expected the race to be as hot as it was. He might have thought this would be a nice prep race for something else. Keep him over there. Just because he's the master doesn't mean things can't happen that he doesn't expect, and he might not have expected quite such a hot race.
Horses can make a fool of you, but I can't imagine this was what they thought at the start of the season for Diego Velasquez. Boys, let's make sure we get our invite to the Saratoga Derby. That's going to be the big target. No, the French Classics were his big aim. It just hasn't happened for him, and he got blown away at Royal Ascot. He was sent off 2-1 favourite that day. He clearly didn't run his race for whatever reason. And he did bounce back the other day. Just on the travel, it used to be a school of thought, Peter, that you couldn't have a horse fully revved up for their prep race for an international because you didn't want them fully fit boarding the plane. But that just doesn't seem to be a thing anymore.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm actually just looking at the irishracing.com there and the quotes after Leopardstown win, and there was no mention of anything in America. Aidan actually, quite a long quote. he actually said he'd probably give the horse a little bit of time now. So it's quite surprising to see that he's turning up
2 weeks in a
Saratoga.
12-hour plane journey.
Yeah. So it's
Didn't they mention the Cox Plate?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So maybe the thought process is, well, let's give him an international trip. Let's take him to a warmer climate, run on firmer ground, give him that experience, win, and then head down under.
Yeah, this is worth $250,000. This race, like it is. It might have been they were thinking of something else and saw the money for this and thought we've got nothing else for it.
Yeah,
Chance is. They say his season's sort of gone to pot a bit already up until last time, and they're like, well, he's the one that sort of that fits in with going there. It might have just been we need to find a horse for this race. And
I mean, Legend of Time.
Musical chairs.
Could be a tip in itself, though, as well. Could be a tip in itself, because Aidan wouldn't be sending them over, especially having not thought of the race before Leopardstown, or didn't have it in the back of his mind. It could just be, could possibly be. But again, it's all about the price. What odds he'll be, I have no idea.
I'd imagine he's going to be 11-10, 5-4. I'd be amazed if he isn't, and if he isn't, I will be. I mean, Jeff Banks, he should be 3-1. Absolutely. That's the price he should be. He should be at least 3-1. Isn't that right, boys? Yeah. Maybe even 9-2. Oh, how's he going to beat this lot? Oh, this is a really tough one. Did we make that work? Probably not. But I mean, Legend of Time is not a stable star for Charlie Appleby, but he is a horse who'd pick up Group 3s and Group 2s, at least be very competitive in them. He's not even based in the UK. He's in the satellite yard in America for Charlie Appleby. There's just too much prize money in North America. Yeah, you can talk about the prestige of British racing all you want, of Irish racing as well, for that matter. As Frankie Dettori said in his farewell, see ya, prestige is great, but it can't compete with prize money, and America has it. We're all going for a different horse, so Diego Velasquez for me. George is going for White Palomino to turn things around with Legend of Time. And Peter, you're like, why are we even talking about this race?
Well, I would go with Diego Velasquez myself, to be honest. I think it's significant that he is running there when it was possibly not in Aidan's mind before Leopardstown, so that's what I'd go with.
It's also Ryan Moore is going over. When they could just get Johnny Velasquez. They're like, nope, Ryan's going to do it. Anything else to mention for the weekend, Peter?
There's one tomorrow, so I don't know when this will be. If this will be
out tonight,
going out,
hopefully.
Desperate Hero. I like. I've put him up on my site. He wouldn't want much rain or any rain to fall. Well, I mean, 4 or 5 mils won't make much of a difference. He's running in the 5 furlong. I think the 3:35 tomorrow, the Qatar Stakes or something like that. He was 25-1 yesterday, but he's gone down to 16s or 20s in places today. I think he could outrun his odds. I'm not saying he'll win, but I wouldn't have him. I'd have him more of a 8-10-1 shot. So that's one I think is worth a bet. 3:35 tomorrow at Goodwood. So hopefully they don't get any rain. I think the faster it is, the better for him. He won a handicap there in Hamilton 2 runs ago. I tipped American Affair in it, and it was only a handicap, but I hadn't seen a performance like that in a long time in a 5 furlong race, the way he won it. I actually couldn't believe what I was seeing. And the form of that race has worked out exceptionally well. He ran after that, but I think the ground, I know he's won in soft, but he's won in soft and heavy in a handicap off the 86, I think it was, and maybe even lower. So as you're going up in the ratings, obviously you need the conditions and everything to be right for you. So I think he will appreciate the faster ground, and I'm hoping there's no superstars in that division at the moment. I mean, I know Big Evs was a very likable 2-year-old and a very exciting prospect moving forward, but I was a bit disappointed with him in Ascot. I know that's a bit harsh. He was third, only beaten a length and a half, but I thought that should have been his race for the taking. As for is in the race as well. I'm just hoping Desperate Hero is a bit of value and could improve past him.
It's currently a 16-1 shot. Out of interest, did you have any interest in Puro Sang? Just on a line of that form, given he was second in Sandown for the Stewards Cup.
Desperate Hero that day, I think the ground kind of blunted his turn of foot because he's got some turn of foot. So I kind of, even though he ran well, he's only beaten, I think, a length and 3/4 in a Group 3. That form won't win this race. So he needs the ground to improve him. I'm not going to kind of take Desperate Hero. That wasn't his proper form, I'm hoping.
Not a literal run.
I wouldn't take, exactly. I think he's better than that. Even though, I mean, the race I'm talking about, Hamilton, he was only running off 91. So he still has a lot of improvement to do. But that race was just so impressive. And I don't think, obviously, the horses in these races would have each off 91 would have probably done the same thing, but I don't know if they would have done more than that. So I think he's value. Now, I'm not saying he'll win, but he'll run better than 16-20 to 1 suggests anyway.
Yeah, 16 to 1 is the best price currently available, and Jack Shannon sounds reasonably bullish about him too. George, anything for you?
I'll give you a pair at Goodwood tomorrow. What is it? The race, the 3 o'clock, the mile, the Golden Mile, the Coral Golden Mile.
Oh, you sicko!
I think Perotto actually I hate to say it. I spoke about it on the last podcast. Him and Magic Memories went for home much too soon the last day and just got nutted on the line. Either of those two could have been the winner of the race. Off the same mark here. I won't say who was riding him that day because that's absolute sacrilege to say he might not have got the best ride, but I'm not sure. It wasn't the best ride, and B, my horse went with it, which meant that my horse also didn't get a great ride. But I think he gets another chance off similar ground, off the same mark. He's 8 to 1. I think he's a nothing each way bet, that's for sure. With the extra places, you'll get your money back for sure. And the other one is in the Qatar Stakes. I think Kurdos is just way too big. Like, you've got horses like Big Evs, Asphora, like horses that are all rated in about the same as him. He's 16 to 1 somehow. Again, I think he's an each way bet to nothing. He's a tough horse. He's an admirable horse. And he wasn't that horses at Ascot. Was he beat by them in the end? 3 1/4 lengths. I could see him finishing as close again, if not closer. I think 16 to 1's an insult for a horse of his quality.
I think Temporize will win the first race tomorrow. He won it last year. He's in great form. He was really good the other day at Newbury. I think he'll win again. But what price he is, I'm not so sure. I think about 6 to 1. He'll go close. That's it, Peter. Really enjoyed your insight on the Final Furlong podcast. Where can our listeners find out more about your stuff as I talk all over you?
All it is a Twitter tipping page, P. Michael Racing. So that's all it is. I don't have anything else yet, but hopefully I will in the coming months.
Only a matter of time. You've been doing some sterling work there. Well worth
Thank
following.
you.
Do you have
much appreciated.
Do you have a nap for Saturday, Peter?
I've always had Al Bashir in my mind that he would win a race like that, but I'm just worried the first furlong, if he can just drop his head and let Haley have him covered up, whether that's midfield or towards the back. If he starts racing prominent, then he's gone. He's no chance. But if he can just settle towards the back, I think he'll definitely win one of these big handicaps. It's only a matter of time. So hopefully that could be it. But I mean, that's a 30 runner sprint handicap. So, and I'm just seeing Griselda's in a nursery there. Now she's gone up a lot, but I didn't actually see her. She's in on Newmarket in the 205. Seeing she's priced up around 7 to 1, that could be big. She's gone up quite a lot for her last win, but she's improving at a rate of knots. So that could be an interesting one around 7 to 1 as well in the 205 on Saturday, Newmarket, Griselda. So that's another one possibly. Bonus
tip. Loving that.
Yeah.
George, nicely done. George, what's your nap for the weekend?
I think I have to say Phantom Flight. It's a little boring, but it's 72 is a nice price. It'd be between him and Yukon Glen, but I wouldn't say anything that punchy. I don't think. I'm not giving you a 20 to 1 nap. I'd say Phantom Flight.
I'm almost tempted to say Phantom Flight as well. I'm almost tempted to say Palace of Safety, just because, or play. Why does it keep saying Palace? What the Place of Safety? Just because Peter was like, it's a nightmare race. And just to all right, all the chips in. Let's go.
There's one more I'd mention, Emmet, but I don't know if it's running because it's on Sunday, so the declarations are not out obviously till tomorrow. Como Park in Galway. I like that horse. Yeah, it was a very good horse for Joseph O'Brien.
Yeah,
Henry de Brabant trains it, and I fancied him the last time because I think he was crying out for the trip, and he won, but he only won by a neck. Mr. Beaton ran in Galway, and he was a bit disappointing, so that's a bit of a worry. But you see, he got put up. That's the other thing in Ireland, as I was saying. He got put up £7 for winning by a neck. It's absolutely ridiculous. It really is. But I think there'd be more to come from that horse. But of course, Galway's going to be extremely competitive, and I don't know what the ground will be. So that's also an unknown. but he seems to handle most ground, and soft ground shouldn't be an issue for him. He's won on it before. So that's one I'd look out for as well on Sunday.
What do you make of the new races for everybody not called Willie Mullins, Henry de Bromhead, Gordon Elliott and Gavin Cromwell?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Why not? I think it's a good idea. Give the other trainers a chance to win races, and they need to win races for their business to continue. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I do too. I do wonder if it's just going to be races that are farmed by Philip Rothwell and Emmet Mullins.
Possibly. Who knows? I don't know. Possibly.
That's the flip side. But at least they're doing something. I'll say that. They're doing something.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. The others win enough anyway, so they won't miss it.
Wonder, does Patrick Mullins take out a training license now just for the crack? Like, oh.
When does that start? Is it next year?
I think it starts this season. I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay.
It kind of needs to. Yeah. I don't know.
Tony Martin qualified. When's Tony Martin back?
And on that bombshell, thank you for watching and listening to this episode of the Final Furlong podcast. I should have said this earlier on. Likes, please. Much appreciated. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please do. It's a real help with the algorithm. We are back with more great stuff. Hopefully, great stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you didn't enjoy it, well then, keep it to yourself. If you did enjoy it, likes and shares are much appreciated. From George, Peter, and me, Emmet Kennedy, we'll talk to you again very, very soon on the Final Furlong podcast. Look after yourself and each other. God bless.
The Final Furlong podcast is proudly brought to you by Jeff Banks Bet. Join the excitement and sign up to Jeff Banks online now to get 10% off any net losses returned as cash after your first month of betting up to £500 at jeffbanks.bet.